Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you the 5-star reads that I read in 2021. So let's just get into it. So I know this is a little late because it's already January 15th when I'm filming this, but it's been a crazy couple months. I didn't even finish 12 Days of Bookmas. So sorry for that, but I got very busy and so I haven't had time. But now here we are and I have some spare time, so I thought I would go through, I think there's like 24 books that I gave 5 stars in 2021. I'm gonna go in the order in which I read them. So at the beginning of the year, I think the first one was like the first book I read in January, all the way up until December. The first book is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Obviously, this is an amazing book. It's the spinoff of the Shadow and Bone series that follows the Crows on their heist. You probably know what this is about by now, but this is the first book I rated 5 stars in 2021. The second book goes right along with it. It's the second book in the Six of Crows duology, Crooked Kingdom. Again, loved this. It was fabulous. I love the dynamic of the characters in the book. I love all of the characters. They all are just unique, especially Nina. I really love Nina and Kaz. But again, it was 5 stars. Both of these books were just amazing, and they were the very first 2 books I read in 2021. The next book I also read in January of 2021, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. I know people either love this book or they hate this book. I am one that loved it. I know it's slow, but I feel like that kind of imitates her life, and I also see the flaws in this book and in Addie as a character, but I sobbed. And like, when I say I sobbed, I was in front of people, and I still continued to sob at the end of this book because it was just that good, and I adore it. I love it so much. So yes, I gave it 5 stars. I loved the writing. I thought the pacing went well with her character, and it was just a really good read, and I still think about it sometimes. Would probably reread it, but I have too many books on my cart of things I need to read right now, so I don't have time for that, but I did really enjoy this book. Apparently, I gave no 5 stars to any of the books that I read in February because we're jumping right on to the beginning of March. I think I started this book at the end of February and finished it in March, but it is A Court of Silver Flames. Obviously, this book actually did not come in when it said it was going to come in. I had to wait for it, which made me really upset because I pre-ordered it. But again, if you know me, you know I love ACOTAR, and this one really did it for me. I loved Nesta's character development in this, and just everything about it. It's amazing. ACOTAR, that's all I have to say. I gave it 5 stars. I enjoyed it, and I read it in like 2 days, and it's a big one. So, A Court of Silver Flames. Also in March, I read The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I gave 5 stars. This is one of my favorite books. Probably still. I don't think a book has made me feel warm and like happy and just like jittery inside in a very long time the way that this book did. And I loved all of the characters. The kids were so cute. It had a great story. It just was very cozy and heartfelt, and I just really enjoyed this book, so I gave this 5 stars as well. And the next book was like the very last book I read in March of 2021. It was Legendborn. I think originally I gave this like 4.5 stars, and the more and more I thought about it, I went back and changed it to 5 stars. Sometimes I need to just sit and think about a book for a while, and my idea on it changes. I loved this book. I'm so excited for book 2. I thought it was so cool. I loved the idea of like the round table and King Arthur and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm very, very interested to see where Bree goes next with the next one. But it was very, very good. If you like YA, fantasy, King Arthur, the round table, any of that kind of stuff, this is a very good read. And I love her. It's just, oh, this book is so good. Next up, we have April, Rule of Wolves. I didn't give King of Scars 5 stars because I didn't like that one this much, but I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I know people have mixed opinions, I think, on how she wrapped up the Grishaverse for now, but I loved all of like the cameos, and that kind of stuff just makes me happy inside. Like, I know that some people find it like cheap or off-putting, but I love it, and I really enjoyed this book. It was so good. I think it really could have been 2 books though. Like, it's almost like part 1 is one book and then part 2 is another book, but aside from that, this is the end of the Grishaverse with Leigh Bardugo. For now. There may be more in the future, but I really enjoyed this book as well. Also in April, I read The Only Good Indians. This is a horror book, and I picked it up. I do have a friend who I kind of was like texting while I read this to see if some of the like cultural things they were talking about were correct or not. Would make sure you check out reviews by someone who is like part of this culture to make sure that they think it's okay, but as me myself, I really enjoyed this book. I don't know, it was pretty good. There is a lot of gore in it though, and I gave it 5 stars because I really enjoyed it when I read it. In May, I read what is one of my favorite books ever. I read Ready Player One, gave it 5 stars. I love this book. I've talked about this book multiple times on this channel already. I think it is just very good. The movie is good in its own way. They're completely different. The main idea is the same, but they are very, very different. I think they're both very good. But this book, I knew from the prologue that it was going to be a 5-star read. It just sucked me in, and I could not stop reading, and I loved the nostalgia of it. Everything about this is great. So in May, I read Vicious. I did not like the second book as much, but Vicious, I did give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed the concept of this book, the dark academia vibes, the villains, almost morally gray because Victor is like a good guy but a bad guy, and I really enjoyed his character and like the extraordinaries, all of that kind of stuff. This is just fabulous. Then in June, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I cried multiple times. My friend just read this book and she was texting me about it, and I was like, girl, I told you it's good, but it hurts. It hurts a lot. I read this in one sitting. I stayed up till literally like 3 a.m. and I cried 3 separate times. I don't know what it is, but everything about this book is just wonderful. I absolutely adore it, and that's all. Like, you don't need to know anything about this book. Go read it because it's perfect. Also in June, I think this is the book I actually read immediately after Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It is The Book Thief. A lot of people read this in school. I never read it in school, so I thought, let me go ahead and do that. I adored it. Historical fiction. It's about kind of like the Holocaust. It's told from the perspective of death, and that was really cool. And I enjoyed the story. I thought it was great. I tabbed it a little bit. I never do that. But it was a really good book and I enjoyed it a lot, so I thought it deserved 5 stars. It's very impactful. Again, in June, another 5-star read, The Silent Patient. I really enjoyed this book. I was going back and forth with who I trusted, who I didn't trust, who I thought was sketchy, and the ending had me shocked. And I love a good thriller, especially a psychological thriller. The girl, the patient, has not spoken since she committed her crime, and we have this psychologist trying to get her to talk. It is very interesting once you figure out why she's being silent. It is crazy. It was very good. So June 15th, I actually think I was on a beach trip, and that's why I picked this book up. But this started my downward spiral into romance. You're gonna see a lot more romance books coming up, and it was in June. I picked it up. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I loved this book, and I'm not a big best friends to, or friends, childhood friends to lovers kind of girl. It was adorable. He takes care of her, and this is also in like 2 timelines, so you see like where they are right now and what happened like 10 summers ago, 8 summers ago. It goes every summer, and then it goes back to the present, and they're on vacation together because she's a vacation blogger. But I don't know, I cried when I read this book when I finished it. I think I got back from the beach and finished it like that night in my bed, and I cried because all I want is someone to love me the way that he loves her. That's it, period. Like, it made me want a love like this. In June, I decided to finally pick up Daisy Johnson the Sixth. It was 5 stars. I loved it so much. I love the interview style of this. My friend also just read this book and was texting about it as well. I really like the way they show what Daisy goes through and the relationships between Daisy and all of the other band members. Again, I cried reading this book when the plot twist is revealed. It was very good, and I am so excited for the TV show that they are filming. I think it's going to be amazing. I just really enjoyed it. Alright, also in June, and yes, this was the first time I ever read this book, 5 stars, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I took forever to finally get through all of the Harry Potter books. I've seen all the movies. I had not watched them. I started them forever ago and I kept taking breaks. And last year was the year that I finally finished. I cried 2 separate times. I read this huge book in 2 days. I read the first half. Then the first big tragic thing happens. Bawled my eyes out, fell asleep, woke up the next day, finished it, bawled my eyes out again. It's Harry Potter. That's all I have to say. But I finally did it. And I think that's the only book in the Harry Potter series that I gave 5 stars to. Actually missing a date on when I read this book, and I can't be bothered to go look through my Instagram or any of that. But It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I think that we should stop romanticizing this as this cute little romance, because it's not a cute little romance. It has lots of domestic abuse in it, but I think that the story is one that was worth telling, and I think that it was very impactful in the way that you look at relationships and like how hard it is to get out of it once you're in it. But it was very good. I couldn't put it down. I think I read this in 1 day as well, or I started it like that night and didn't get far enough into it to realize like, oh crap, this is great, and then woke up and finished it the next day. And this was my first Colleen Hoover book. You're gonna see a billion more at the end of this video, or very soon. I also don't have a date for when I read this book. I feel like it was kind of close to August maybe. But Ace of Spades I gave 5 stars. I really liked the concept. It's kind of got a mystery going on, but it's not really like a, ooh, mystery. It's like they're trying to figure out who is targeting them, because they're in like an all-white school that is very like private school, and they are being targeted because they are the only 2 black students. They are very different from each other. They lead very different lives, and they kind of develop a friendship, obviously, because they have to stick together and like figure out who's tormenting them. And it was very good. I loved it. It's YA. I 100% recommend that you pick up this book. In September, I gave 5 stars to the Atlas 6. I do have a review of this up on my channel, so if you want to hear my thoughts, you can go watch that. But I really liked this, and I'm super excited that there's going to be another one. And I know that someone asked me the other day where I got my paperback, because you can't get them anymore. It's because this is when she self-published the book, and now that she's got a publishing company, they come out in hardback. So you're probably gonna have to wait a while to get a paperback if you don't have one near you. But again, I loved the magic world, loved the academia vibes, all that kind of stuff. If you want to see my review of it, go back on my channel and watch it. It's the first book review I ever did on this channel. And in September, we're back with another Colleen Hoover. I read Verity. I loved it. I also have a review for this book up on my channel if you want to watch that as well. I'll link, if I have a review for one of these books, which I think is just this one and Atlas 6, I'll link them in the description. But mind blown. This is the craziest thing I've ever read in my life. In the comments, let me know, letter or manuscript, period. Alright, and then in November, we have another Colleen Hoover, and that one is Ugly Love. I loved this book. I thought this book was amazing. Some parts are a little iffy, but I think I read this in 1 sitting, and I could not stop. It was so good. I cried. Colleen Hoover does it again. You don't even need an explanation. Like, literally just go buy her books. But yeah, I ugly cried. I ugly cried at this book. So good. The next book is also Colleen Hoover in November. I actually read November 9th. I was gonna read it on the 9th, but I started on the 8th because I thought it would take me like 2 days to do because of work, but then I read it all on November 8th, and so close, but not exactly. I did give this 5 stars, but I still don't think it was good as any of the other Colleen Hoover books I read, but I still really enjoyed it, and Fallon and Ben, and I really like the idea of, like, they see each other once a year on the same day and that's it, and you just like jump through these different November nights. I didn't cry at this didn't have like this like really upsetting feeling that like a lot of other Colleen Hoover books have given me, but I did really enjoy this book as well. Chef's kiss. Also the cameo, if you know, you know, the cameo in this book, amazing, a masterpiece. The next book, I read it in November as well. This may be, I like how my pile of discarded books are right here. It may be the best book I read all of 2021. It may be my favorite book of 2021. And that's The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. I'm obsessed with this. It was a Kylo or a Raylo fan fiction to begin with. I'm the biggest Star Wars nerd. I love Star Wars, so that made it even better. All I could think of was Adam Driver. I love the scientific setting that it takes place in. Everything about this romance is just amazing, and I couldn't put it down. I couldn't move on after I finished this. I stared blankly at a wall and was like, I'm empty inside. I will probably reread this book. I'm telling you, it was one of the best things that I've ever read. It was one of the best books I've read last year, which is hard to say because like this, obviously, if you hold this next to a fantasy book, was it as good as the fantasy book? No, because romance is just different. You know, romance just, you can't even put them in the same category, obviously, but the way that it made me feel cannot be beat. And I love this book so much with my whole heart. I will read anything this woman writes at this point. And I know she's coming out with a couple of novellas and I think a novel this year. So I will read it. I love this book so much. I love it so much. Please read The Love Hypothesis. It was so good. And the last 5-star read I gave in 2021. And that is Kingdom of the Ash. Yes, I got the Nerdy Ink covers. I really, like I gave some of the Throne of Glass books 4 stars. But I really did not love the way I thought I was going to love some of these Throne of Glass books, which I spent like the whole year kind of going through them slowly. This book hurt me. I like how there's one tab because I was going to tab them and I didn't. I just don't have the patience to tab books at all. If you know what I'm talking about, but that scene at the end, the big one that just hurts. You know, they tell her to live. It broke my soul. And that's when I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And this book is hefty. I think this might be the biggest book I have ever read. And Sarah J. Maas really did it with this one. I really enjoyed it. And it made me really sad that Throne of Glass was over. So hopefully I'm going to read Crescent City soon. I'm working on it. I was supposed to read it in December if you watched my book miss. That didn't happen. But I'm working on it. So yeah, this is the last book I gave 5 stars to in 2021. So I think in total that was about 24 books. That's what I gave 5 stars to. And I'm hoping to be a little harder on what I give 5 stars this year and read hopefully as close to as many books this year as I did last year. Last year I read 102 books. But my goal for this year is 75. So I've only read 2 so far in January. I've been kind of slacking. I've been busy and I haven't really had time. So now that I'm done with this, I need to go get back to reading If We Were Villains because that's what I'm currently reading. But thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.